Told you. Oh yeah. I'm liking my little tang knife. This thing has got character. I may have to throw this out in the yard for a while and let it acquire more character. I mean, this thing is just like spiffy almost. It's practically spiffy. I know that if I'd actually been one of the old boys, I would have some weird tools that I made, that I, would make. And they would be cool. And, of course, if I was actually an old boy and like trying to get along with other old boys, I'd have to mind my P's and Q's more, because it probably was kind of a survival thing back then. You probably didn't want to come off as just super weird in your group or nothing. Might not be a good thing. Theoretically, you could start looking tastier than you oughta. Don't know. Probably depends on what group you ran with. Man, I saw a good-looking cat the other day. Yeah. I need to post a picture of that cat somewhere. I took a picture of him. It was good. Or her. I think it was a her. I always kind of wanted an exotic cat, that looks like an ocelot or something, or a serval. I don't remember if I mentioned it, but when I was at Flat Ridge, there was this van parked there, and the owner of the van wasn't around, but I saw this dog on a leash attached to the van, and I looked and like, hey man, that don't look like no dog to me. Part wolf. I need to get out my, let me look at the rest of this. Yeah. This edge trimmed up, and then I need to get out my little steel notching assistance tool, because this is, as I've said before, some tough material. Kind of want to use a hand flaker for some of this fine edge retouching stuff, but kind of tended to use an ishy stick because when I first started out, I was just having so much problems with my wrist from the force I was using, and I just sort of decided I didn't want to do that and have problems. So once I started using the ishy stick, I don't use my wrist much. So I rarely have any much of a sense of wrist discomfort, except when I nap abo. Other than that, this is cute. No, I'm not going to show it to you right now. Just let me mess with it a minute. Because I know how you are. Once you see the final product, you leave and don't come back till I post something else. I know how it works. What does this look like? Okay, so that's... Dang it. Pressure flaking well really is a lot trickier than people realize. When you don't want any steps, but you do want sharp edges, you end up, and listen closely because I don't think I've said this before. Maybe I have. You end up trying to strike a balance between edge stiffening and not overdoing it, because what you want is, you don't want your platform to fail, but you also don't want to dull the edge a whole bunch and have to take off big thick flakes when you're already more or less through with that shaping process and stuff. When you're just trying to do final refinement of your edge, if you have to do, like right there, I was just working on the tip. If you have to do if you get a real stout platform there, you're probably going to blow your tip off when you try and take the flake. And you don't want to take a big flake, and you don't want the flake to run that far, but you do want the flake to not step. So I don't know how to describe what I'm wanting to say, but what I kind of do sometimes is I try and get the edge. I use real fine, like what really I like is to use a real thin quartzite or something like this, or a real fine thing. And I almost, and I may do, at an angle to get the platform like I want it, but I burnish it almost, more longitudinal work, with a goal of polishing that edge, getting rid of the knife sharpness of it, and making it stiff enough to where if I push, it'll break easily if I push downward, but if I push inward more to get the sharpness I want anyway, if I get on it carefully, push inward quickly, that from my previous experience I know it'll hold up long enough to take the flake before it fails and steps. And I know it may sound like I'm being overly tedious or analytical with it, but I'm not, because it actually, it does work. You can learn to control the process well enough from your past experience that you can take fine little bitty flakes and yet more or less never have a platform failure that results in a step. That's kind of a big deal because you do so much work on edges anyway. And eventually with most things you get down to where you want to sharpen them. And I see so much work where the final edge retouch is not at the same angle as the original flaking, and it bevels it and loses some sharpness. And I do that too. I mean, I don't get it all perfect with that too. So I'm not being critical of any one, but I'm just saying. You don't have to feel like you need to make super thin notches all the time, super narrow notches, unless you're specifically trying to do a point type that had that, because it dramatically increases the risk of failure when the edge of your notch is right beside where your pressure is. And I know there was some ultra narrow notching and stuff, but for the most part I don't really prefer that look even. But I need to I'm worried about this because I'm going cross grain, and I'm naturally flaking on something that's prone to break in that direction is an issue. So I'm a little concerned about that, especially since it's tough rock. A lot of times I like to put a little square face on the front of my thing, so when I push it, it's not putting pressure out sideways. It's not a V-notch kind of thing. I think it's kind of cute. Allergies been bugging me. I don't know what's going on. Something's in the air. Something's in the air. make sure you get enough inward force. I've got a bevel on this to help me get inward force instead of downward force. I need a flake. Where's my flake bucket? Oh well. We're gonna try and get in there with a flake and you don't really want to abrade to speak of in notches, but it's not a bad idea to stiffen that edge to not get a platform failure. Especially on petrified wood, folks. This is cute. Gotta watch where I say that though, because all of a sudden I'll have this finished for 10 minutes. And then wifey will have it, and I won't have my little tang knife. Have you ever noticed that? You've always got to watch when you're with somebody and you're like out and about, especially like if you're exploring. You have to be very careful what you act excited about, because if you find something cool, you need to ask yourself before you start acting all giddy about it, if the person with you decides that they like it too and want it, are you going to be obligated to give it to them? Because you know, sometimes there's still a situation like that from my impetuous youth that pains me to think about. I'm tempted to just stop on this because, number one, you're probably tired of watching a video where there's no big action. Number two, though, I could really break that kind of easily. I got that, that's pretty thick there. I think I'll just watch that a little bit. I need a flake to polish this other thing. I'll get a flake. Anyway, okay, so here, can you see it? Can you see it now? Don't worry if you can't see it, because I'll probably take pictures of it and post them at the end like I do sometimes. Anyway, bye for now. Freeze crack.